Hello everyone. Before I start the video, I'd like to thank everyone who have supported my new album Akai Tracks Volume 2. It really gained a lot of traction and a lot of interest, and I think it had the most interest out of anything else I've ever self-released. So I'm really grateful for that, and thank you. Some people have asked me how I start a track, and the way I make a track hasn't changed for more than 25 years. It's pretty much I've been doing it all the same. I use SoundForge to manage my samples, and I usually just go through samples or make them myself. I create a folder where I have all these samples, and this becomes my sort of like a miniature sample pack for a specific track. Today I want to show you one track I just recently made. It hasn't been released yet. Hopefully someday I will put it out. I don't know. I'm going to show the workflow I used to make this track that I call direct exposure. So even though I'm using a sampler, and samplers are associated with samples, meaning sampling other people's music, I usually sample my own music. I create my own samples, my own sounds, pads and all kinds of stuff, and then I sample them into the sampler and use them to further make my track. So for instance, I had an idea that I want to make a track that contains sort of like a jazzy funky sample, but yeah, instead of sampling somebody else's music, I wanted to be original, and I decided to make that sample myself. So for that I'm using Reason 10 and some virtual instruments. So I started with the electric piano riff, something like that. Okay, once I have that played, have it running, I decided to add something else, drums. Then it also needed a bass. Where's the bass? And then I wanted to have another drum loop. So it's all MIDI right now. So to make it more authentic, I added, I wanted to make it mono because it's all. Then I added the cassette plugin. Adds a bit of hiss and makes it more lo-fi. And then I added the vinyl record simulation. And at the end I added a bit of compression to simulate the analog, sort of like. Okay, so that's the one loop that I have. The second one I wanted to have to add the bit more of sequenced sort of pattern, that I've used this clang instrument with randomly selected sequence. I just added the right notes and I get this one. And also I wanted to just have some sort of a pad, not pad, but like a chord, electric piano chord, something like that. Okay, so that's about it. I'm no longer gonna be using Reason for this track. I can close it down. Okay, so I have this folder with samples. I have lots of different samples, mostly just breaks. That's all I have is breaks. I should probably delete half of them because I'm not even using. I have just very few specific breaks that I really use. So for that track, I knew that I want to have an aim and break. So I have, not that's the one, just some breaks and so I think I'm gonna use that one. This is pretty clean break taken from the vinyl, and so I have this loop. But I know that it's only 154, 155 BPM. It's good that SoundForge shows what the BPM of a loop is. So it's definitely not what I want. So I want it to be at 164. So what I do is just gonna try and pitch it until I find the right one. That's a bit too fast. I think I can go for that. So it's it's 164 BPM right now, so it's gonna be good. I'm gonna apply it through the whole on the whole break. Once it's in the sampler, I chop it into smaller pieces. I lay it in a keyboard like that. So this is already the bass that the samples, my folder that contains all the instruments that all the sounds that I'm gonna use. So it's gonna have 808 bass. Let me just. I also use the program called Akai, which is this one. Which is this one. To time stress my breaks. I could do that inside of Akai, but that takes a lot of time. So it's faster for me to just use Akai. So it has. Anyway, now with the loop that I just made, I usually pitch it up by 12 tones. You get it like that. The reason that I do it, I'm gonna sample it that fast into an Akai, and then I'm gonna slow it down back again. So I'm gonna end up with this sound. Can you hear it? It already has this sort of lo-fi gritty texture that makes it sound like a proper sample taken from a vinyl record, you know? Same with other samples, like this one. I make it faster like that, and then I pitch it down back into my sampler and so I end up what I ended up with is just lots of drops. It takes me about half an hour to to program my sampler. It obviously takes a lot more time to do that. If I would be using just a computer, it's drag and drop 1-2 seconds and you have all your programs set. So yeah, that working with hardware requires a little bit of commitment. So as you can see, my structure of a track is pretty simple. There's not much is going on, but I don't even need to add much because, to be honest, all this equipment that I have is pretty minimal, but it sounds so good that I don't even have to work on my mixdowns a lot. I don't have to add and layer sounds to get really like punchy sound or whatever. This is how I like to make my music. That way I can make it pretty quick. I don't have to worry too much about the mixdowns because working with this small analog setup already gives me the kind of sound that I want. I don't have to spend hours and hours trying to work on the software. Anyway, so let's have a listen.
Live and direct, I want on the master to show maximum respect.